Objection.
Thank you. I rise to recognize a pivotal moment in our nation's history. On this day, 150 years ago, the territory of Nebraska became the 37th state to enter the Union. Let me tell you the story of Nebraska. In a deep and powerful way, it is the story of America. America grew up in Nebraska. We were the first state admitted after the Civil War, but our admission was first vetoed by President Andrew Johnson. It was the only time in American history that this has happened. The reason? President Johnson disagreed with a fundamental condition of Nebraska statehood, that black men be allowed to vote. Fortunately, Congress overrode this veto. On March 1st, 1867, Nebraska became a state. I said before, Nebraska statehood was a pivotal moment for our country. Nebraska gave America a chance to be better. By bringing Nebraska into the Union, our country turned away from slavery forever. We turned towards the truth about humankind, that everyone is precious in heaven's eyes. By making Nebraska a state, America reached for a future more closely aligned with that truth. Since that new birth of freedom, our nation has taken many more steps, some bold strides, some stumbles, but always we seek to be more fully the country we were made to be. At a crucial moment, Nebraska strengthened our commitment to do that. Nebraska renewed America's identity. As a state, Nebraska had not only hard, but also humble beginnings. They called it the Great American Desert. In the early 1800s, the famous military officer and explorer Zebulon Pike, well, he shrugged us off, saying simply, "Not a stick of timber." A few years later, geologist Edwin James and Major Stephen Long gave us this review. The land was uninhabitable by a people depending upon agriculture. Today, wagon ruts can still be seen at Windglass Hill on the Oregon-California trail where settlers passed through. They were looking for greener pastures. Well, last year, Nebraska ranked #1 in the nation in beef exports. The state ranks #1 in both the number of mother cows and cattle on feed. We are the beef state. We are Cornhuskers. With both corn and cattle, we produce high-quality protein products that are sought by consumers all around this globe. We are #1 in the nation in Great Northern bean production, popcorn production, and irrigated acres of cropland. Nebraska agriculture is diverse, and it is expansive. We also have more miles of river than any other state. As we sit over the great high plains in the Ocala Aquifer, water flows to 7 other states from Nebraska. Our abundant supply of groundwater makes us leaders in producing soybeans, wheat, pork, and grain sorghum. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Homestead Act. It made Americans really a simple offer: strike out west, cultivate 160 acres of surveyed government land for 5 years. And at the end of that time, the land would be theirs. Families crossed the plains in covered wagons to take Mr. Lincoln up on that offer. And this time, they stayed. In fact, the law's very first claimant was a doctor and a Civil War veteran named, fittingly enough, Daniel Freeman. So powerful was his dream that Dr. Freeman filed his paperwork just a few minutes after midnight on New Year's Day, 1863, the day that that law went into effect. His homestead lies just outside of Beatrice, Nebraska, where today we find the Homestead National Monument. In this vast and roofless land, the homesteaders made the American dream real. They tilled the earth, first to feed themselves and then to feed the world. Nebraskans made the great American desert into one of the greatest agricultural exporting regions in world history. They did this in part by scientific discovery. Developments in agricultural technology, including the center pivot, pioneered in Nebraska, have allowed Nebraska ag producers to feed the world. Nebraska continues to lead the nation in center pivot irrigation technology. And today, we are home to the 4 largest irrigation companies in the United States. Other technological breakthroughs came in transportation, especially rail. These developments helped us to connect our communities and our country. The route of the first transcontinental railroad runs through my state. Today, Bailey Yard in North Platte is the world's largest railroad classification yard. And Nebraska now connects her families by 97,000 miles of public road. Well, that's a far cry from those wagon ruts. These improvements allow us to continue that noble work, which we gladly accept, of feeding the world. Now I would like to take a moment to reflect on something. Nebraska not only helped America find its moral compass again, our state also shows what wonders a free and virtuous people may work, and it reveals the relationship between the two. When you seek the right thing first, and you work at it hard, amazing things follow. This is true not only in our rural areas, but also in our cities. Omaha began as the gateway to the West. Pioneers and immigrants made it a mighty city on its own part. From the former stockyards to the strong family businesses to Fortune 500 companies that you will find there today, the fingerprints of hardworking, dedicated people cover every inch of concrete. Omaha leads in banking and insurance and telecommunications and transportation and in medicine. Last year, the University of Nebraska Medical Center was ranked 5th in America among the best medical schools for primary care. And I think Dr. Daniel Freeman, America's first homesteader, would be proud of that, but I doubt if he would be surprised. This is what happens when we work hard and let ourselves be guided by goodness. It happens in Lincoln, our state capital, which was renamed after President Lincoln was assassinated. It happens in our panhandle towns, in our cities along the broad and the braided Platte River, all along our I-80 corridor, and in so many rural small towns across our state. Nebraskans are a people who are engaged in manufacturing, technology, ag business, education, and the arts. We are strong people and we build strong communities. I have to say another word about doing the right thing, Mr. President. In 1879, Nebraska was the site of the first time that American Indians had their day in court when Standing Bear made his famous statement, "I am a man." The U.S. District Court eventually ruled what we all know to be absolute truth. A person is a person. Here again, Nebraska gave America the opportunity to be better. And there are many other moments. Nebraska was the first state in which women were the 2 major party candidates for governor. When Kay Orr, a Republican, defeated Helen Busalis, a Democrat, in 1986. I am here on the Senate floor honoring the state I love on its 150th anniversary. And I encourage you, come and see what the good life is about. See our cities, their industry, their creativity, their culture, where our innovators work new wonders, so much so that we are now called Silicon Prairie. Feel the thrill of Memorial Stadium, which becomes our 3rd largest city on a game day. Shout, "Go Big Red," and cheer on the Huskers. delight in our opera and ballet, breathe in our small towns, stop in a family-run bakery, have lunch at a local cafe, and enjoy some of the national food sensations that began in Nebraska. Kool-Aid, a Reuben sandwich, and of course, Runzas. Enjoy local favorites like kolaches and kuchen and fried tacos and pork chili. Enjoy a Nebraska rodeo. Ride out to our rural areas where, as poet laureate Ted Kooser says, the pickup kicks its fenders off and settles back to read the clouds. Be awed by the vastness of Nebraska, which gives us perspective on things great and small. Learn from Chimney Rock, our western buttes, and the Pine Ridge, how to stand tall, no matter the weather or the season of life. Be soothed by the sandhills, the largest grass-covered sand dunes in the United States, in the world, and God's own cattle country. Find peace in the song of the Sandhills crane. Take in the Central Flyway, where millions of migratory birds fly, including our state bird, the western meadowlark. See our gently rolling eastern hills, canoe our rivers, fish our trout streams, and relax on our lakes. Follow the trails that tell the story of our history and the roads that lead to a bright future. See Nebraska at night under a sky filled with stars. Know why people travel from all across the world simply to stargaze. Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist Willa Cather, who grew up in Nebraska, wrote of the West, "Elsewhere, the sky is the roof of the world, but here the earth was the floor of the sky." We are a people of the Great Plains, the prairie, the sandhills. We remember our enduring sources of strength, faith in God, reliance on family, and a habit of hard work. These things give us a sure footing. For America, for 150 years, Nebraska has been a place to look up and begin again, a land of vast possibility, of opportunity, a place to dream and to realize dreams, a model for America and the envy of the world. Congratulations to the people of the great state of Nebraska as we celebrate our rich history, the exciting present that we are building, and the brighter future we will have in our next 150 years. Thank you, Mr. President.